Hey, John Gilroy here. Today, we're going to talk about feds at the edge and digital modernization. Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, the podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I'll be your moderator. In the virtual studio today is Ryan Leiws, CEO of Rancher Government Solutions. Ryan, feds at the edge, you really want to jump into that?
Let's do it, John. John, it's great to be on the show. It's great to talk to you again. It's been a bit.
Good. Let me state the obvious. I think during COVID, which was 5 years ago, feds at the edge became a trending phrase because people were working from home. But I think what we see is this whole wave of sensors being everywhere from under the sea to outer space. We've got so much information coming in, complex systems. And so what I wanted Ryan to explain is where does rancher government fit in this solution to handling all this data coming in, these hybrid environments? So where do you folks fit in anyway?
You're spot on, right, John? And just in talking about the seismic shift that we have all lived through with our customers in the last 5+ years now, from the early days of COVID to the present, where initially when we talk about edge, even just a few years ago, we were just talking about mobile devices, right? And having a semi-seamless experience between whatever you're working in and your desktop to when you're on the go or you're working from home, if that's an option for certain mission sets. That has evolved dramatically, almost to the point where it's almost unrecognizable to where we sit today, in the sense that it's no longer simply just having some services connect on a mobile device. But for a majority of our mission users now, it is having the exact same experience, if not enhanced experiences and capabilities in whatever the edge environment is for their end users that mirrors the enterprise, right? So increasingly, users demand and expect that wherever they're working and whatever they're working on, whatever the austere environment is, whether that be on a large like factory or production floor or out in the field in potentially adversarial environment, that they should have the exact same capabilities that they would have back sitting right in whatever their enterprise enclave is. And that is such a core critical mind shift that impacts almost every part, right, of the public sector. And where we fit into that whole spectrum of options, which has emerged very quickly, is that we're the connective tissue, right, between all of those different environments and deployment sites right across that spectrum. So whether it is a mobile device, whether it is a forward deployed location, or whether it's more remote sensors, right? Our stack and sort of the underlying stack of sort of just general modern software driven by containers. That's where we and our overall product stack fit in. And essentially how we work with each customer, right, is where we pull in different parts of that stack, right, to bring the best, most secure and flexible solution that we can.
So I'm taking notes as you speak, and you wrote down exact same experience. And I think that this is maybe the general goal of many commercial organizations, especially when the transition during COVID was made to remote and having that same kind of experience. And so it seems like you're taking some of the best practices from the commercial world and applying them here to the much more difficult and complex federal world. Is that what you're trying to do here?
100%, right? And even if you look at just a lot of at the highest level, right, with just different modern software or software modernization techniques, right? This is where Kubernetes came in all those years ago, right? It is what we are doing, right, is a logical extension of that. So what was first modernized and still being modernized in the enterprise, whether that is updating different hybrid environments or that's deploying a new virtualization technique, right? Taking that, either those active lessons learned that are being deployed or ones that have already been implemented, and then taking that out. And I think the part that is cool is you kind of have in tech, right, you have some sort of trend that's driving in a particular direction. And what's cool is right now, John, is that it's bidirectional. You have all this sort of very painful lessons learned that are now being driven out across anywhere in the enterprise. So you have, as we were talking about, like experiences. But then equally, what's cool about this is that you're starting to see the edge influence back into the enterprise, right? Given, like, take like something that's in the news a lot where you'll have in a forward deployed area, you may have a myriad of different sensors, right, that are essentially all some sort of node in an environment, whether they're actively connected or not, right? That is a unique problem that is changing how edge architectures are working. That will undoubtedly and is influencing how that goes back into the enterprise, right? So it is, from a technology perspective, it could not be a more interesting time, right, to work at this orchestration layer, because you're both modernizing and implementing best practices across all different compute stacks, but then you're also learning in real time what it means to take those lessons and bring best of breed offering into new use cases at the edge that it didn't exist even a few years ago.
No, Ryan, I think you're indirectly referring to operational technology. A lot of sensors out there that seems to be important. So when you said hybrid environment, you're talking about, well, maybe some sensors and operational technology. It's good, but hybrid can be much more complex than that. You got multiple clusters across data centers. You got the edge, you got clouds, you got hybrid cloud. It's that you're running out of space on your whiteboard to describe it, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're hitting our origin story, right? Like our origin, and this is, going way back when I first started working just with the Rancher open source repositories, was just that. Like, take something challenging, but perhaps less complex than, managing and maintaining a myriad of sensors in an edge location, and just take something like, I have on-prem and then I have some sort of cloud offering. How do I work between those two offerings, right? Or I have a mission critical application, and I want to modernize that in my environment, and so I have, best security practices in place, as well as a full container strategy, right? That's where we started. That's where the core of our offering lives, and that is by no means, right, a easy solve problem that anyone can just do overnight, right? And so for us, still working closely with customers on just even that challenging solution is critical, because particularly given a lot of the newer apps, particularly those that are, perhaps driven by different agency AI initiatives, these are compute heavy applications. Agencies have to use whatever resources they have, right? So, absolutely maximizing whatever capability exists today is just a key first step, and that's just within the enterprise. That doesn't even speak to some of the unique challenges that sit in a more exclusively edge deployment.
Easy solve problems. I'm going to toss out an easy solve problem for you here that I think many agencies are encountering. So they have a situation where maybe they have to modernize. We talked about digital modernization. Okay, that's fine. So you have a DevSoc environment, and so you have a situation where you're trying to improve the operation of an agency, at the same time maintain continuous compliance. It's like you're getting pushed and pulled in two directions here. It's like, well, we have to do this, and so how do you juggle that? How do you juggle ATO and continuous compliance and DevSecOps and digital modernization and 50 new sensors? I mean, this is the guy in the Ed Sullivan Show juggling too much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the part, though, that is reassuring about all this, John, is that as one goes, so go the other, right? And particularly for what we have worked closely with customers on for years in some cases, is that no one's modernizing just for the sake of it, right? And that is always, right, in compliance with adopting some of the newest security best practices, right? So if, for example, if we're working with a customer to deploy, right, a software modernization project, and they're incorporating parts of our Carbide stack, well, then in the process of doing that, they're inherently, right, working and incorporating some of the best, or some of our latest, continuous diagnostic, continuous inspection and software, right? So containers allow, right, just containers at the highest level, right, enable a lot of this sort of emerging functionality for continuous software evaluation to occur in a much more seamless way that did not exist, in previous implementations. And so the benefit for addressing a lot of these core requirements, not just for optimizing compute or cost efficiency or modernization or being secure, right? A lot of these techniques that are all sort of driven out of essentially with what we're offering or what containers can offer, right, at the core level of orchestration. So I think that is what makes this so compelling. I think that one of the many challenges that comes with that, and not surprisingly, is it's so high consequence, right? What we're executing, or working with partners or other groups within the ecosystem, right? It has long-standing consequences for how our customers are architecting. What are they deploying? When can they deploy? What are other applications that should be incorporated? What sites can get the latest techniques? Like these are all sort of things that we have to work closely with customers and partners on.
I can drive down to the Pentagon and probably get a press credential, walk in there and talk to some people. And if I talk about the edge, maybe a civilian agency may define it differently than the people at the DoD. And what the DoD might think about is like a contested environment. So there are contested environments out there on the ground and maybe in space. And so the big fancy pants word that'll resonate in the Pentagon, I think, is denied, disconnected, intermittent, limited environments. And so there may be disconnections between systems. So we talk about feds at the edge, at the open, but these are feds at the edge that have to maintain some kind of continuity in kind of challenging environments. And so can your software stack help enable these connections in difficult environments?
Yeah, and it's one of these things that, at a high level, it seems like an obvious statement when you say disconnected or contested. And yet it is one of those, like so many things, right, in technology, right, supporting different national security missions, is that the devil is really in the details, John. And this is where a lot of pretty compelling capability can fall on its face. When you start talking about how seamlessly can a solution work in a disconnected environment, how quickly can it reboot if it has to be shut down? And I think one of the things that that I'm most excited about, that I love personally working on within our product stack, is within the broader Harvester suite. One of the core things that we have continued to build out is the fully declarative nature of the stack itself. So it's one thing to say, right, you can disconnect, right? So it's not phoning home, right? Whatever that kit or capability is. It's another thing to say if you have to reboot or move, or you have some other adversarial behavior that requires you to have to shut down. Like, this is the big question. There is not, can it be done? The question is, how quickly can you get back up and running, and without requiring, right, a large technical team, right, just to be maintaining the edge environments, right? Because the goal here is not to maintain infrastructure. The goal here is to execute the mission, right? And so one of the core things, right, that we have continued to really prioritize here has been continuing to expand that declarative nature, where you can have a non-technical user, right, rapidly stand up or redeploy apps without having to go right into scripting or SQL queries or whatever else they have to work on, right? Because the second you're doing that, second you're expanding the level of acumen and time, right? And time is, as in all things in life, is the most critical resource. And so for us, our ability to continue to mature that and work through a myriad of different use cases with customers to stress test that capability is easily one of the most important things that we're working on this year.
One of my heroes is a guy named David Linthicum. He writes about the cloud, and increasingly we see him talking about a shock with some cloud situation, and there's some licensing issues. There's licensing issues in the federal government as well. Let's look at Rancher Government Solutions. Can you provide any options or ways to reduce operational costs compared to some of these traditional virtualization and hyperscaler environments?
Well, yeah, and I think the move to the cloud was one of those absolutely pivotal moments, right, for the U.S. government. It introduced a ton of new capability, right, and innovation that just I think a lot of people were just blown away to see unlocked in such quick order. I think But with all technology, we continue to innovate, right? And I think one of the core things that, as you've seen this sort of modernization effort that we're talking about, whether it's sitting on-prem or it's sitting in a one cloud environment or multiple CSPs, is that you have increasing demands now for greater flexibility, or what you often hear, I was just reading about last night, is the demand for more portability of applications between different stacks. So you have the same experience in one place, as we're talking about the edge, you have the same experience across everywhere else, right? And you're able to maximize whatever investments you already made. And again, this is where, our orchestration software, that's core Rancher, the managers we would refer to it, right? That's really where we come in, right? So you have, optimal flexibility, right, across whatever environments you're working in, and greater visibility, meaning so you can be running workloads, right, in whatever your cloud environment is, as well as local, right? Because you can't, as you'll say, you can't manage what you can't measure, right? And you can't make anything more efficient if you're not tracking it, right? And so being able to have, right, that visibility across your entire network to see what's running, see what should be there, what other rules that you need across your entire enterprise, not just one location. That's sort of honestly, John, like that's sort of the foundation for any sort of objective that would flow from that, whether that's deploying new applications, or just looking for efficiencies, or looking for potentially security gaps or other things that are happening. So it all sort of comes back, right, to that core manager level. And again, that's where we come in. And that's why, when you hear, the government talking about more and more about the importance of modern software techniques, whatever the mission set is, that's really one of the core things I think they're driving at, is we want to be able to see, manage, update dynamically, regardless of the stack that we're deployed on. And that's where you're going to see the department going. There's sort of endless examples of this unfolding. And that's one of the reasons why we're so excited to be working with customers right now in this space.
My final question is going to be a tough one. So we have these two big waves coming at us. We have zero trust coming at us, and we have feds at the edge, all kinds of environments. Some call it an omni-channel world. So where does Rancher fit in handling all these different channels coming in and still maintaining, some of the compliance like zero trust? Is it's going to help or hinder this digital transition in the next 5 years?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm smiling, right? It's because this was something I was discussing this morning, right? And and so this is a timely topic, but particularly on the zero trust perspective, right? With everything that we've worked on, right, from the hardened stack, being able to drill down and offer analysis all the way down into the SBOM level for what's being delivered, right, in whatever the containerized workload is. That's the essence of when you're talking about zero trust, is that core information, right? And we're, for lack of better terms, we're kind of the rails, right? We can serve as a rail to help run that, right? So as you're modernizing, as we were talking about, it's easy to really spend a majority of one's time talking about what new functionality and features exist and what that means for the mission. But, equally and perhaps more important is that it also allows for greater visibility, right, into, a software's overall security profile, right? And this is something that you'll see, still being worked out in the commercial market in real time. As one moves faster and is bringing in different capabilities, it inherent, just by the very nature of doing that, right, it's going to add more dynamism to any customer's environment. And by the very nature of that, there can be new risks. And so if you're not drilling into that and being able to see down to the core level of that software, then that's where you go from managing risk to having potential unknowns, that's where you get into danger, right? So we're a core feature in that stack to help provide information into what is known about all those new software capabilities coming out.
Yeah, and there's tons coming out. And unfortunately, Ryan, we're running out of time here. Perhaps next time we'll do a little bit deeper dive in this whole concept of zero trust and evolving architecture in the future, especially with a hybrid world that's so confusing.
And I would love that, John, right? Because we're going to have a couple new features in our own product stack coming out right in the next couple of months that are going to be drilling into this further than already more of the hardened offerings that we have. So would welcome the opportunity to come back and talk to you about it.
Yeah. I was thinking last time we had a conversation several years ago, we talked about outer space and we talked about sensors in outer space. Now we're back in the ground, but many problems still are the same. I mean, trying to understand what's going on within this constrained federal environment that we have to live in. So it's going to be a lot of conversations down the future.
Absolutely.
You have been listening to the Fiddle Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Ryan Leiws, CEO of Rancher Government Solutions. And if you'd like more information, I'll put a link to their website in the show notes, and that's ranchergovernment.com.
Thanks, John.